Nicole Pedra defies the limitations of multiple sclerosis while embracing an array of roles, from coach to model to actress. Despite her diagnosis at the tender age of 10, Nicole navigates the challenges of her condition with resilience and grace, offering insights into how she continues to pursue her passions in the entertainment industry. Through her experiences living with MS for 26 years, Nicole's journey unfolds as a testament to strength, resilience, and the unwavering determination to thrive despite the obstacles presented by chronic illness. Thank you so much, Nicole Pedra, for joining me here on AwareNow to share this space and to share your story. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Let's start our conversation by talking about hats. As someone who wears multiple hats, a coach, in addition to a model, an actress, how do you navigate the challenges of MS while pursuing your passions in the entertainment industry?
So basically, the industry is just so up and down all the time. You know, they say that if you're an actor, like what restaurant do you bartend at or waitress at, right? So I've been in the acting role for a while now. And so like when I have auditions, that's fine. Or when I get something, but it's not always so consistent that it is like overwhelming. And if it was at this point where it was just being very regular, then I would have to drop back at other things. But it's nice because I've had the time to branch out, to do other things and kind of go where things have taken me. So the real way that I manage all my obligations and wearing so many hats is being aware of what the next day entails, right? So if I have a shoot that's like going to be a 6-hour day, I know that. So how can I prepare myself so that I will be able to function for that shoot? Sleeping, maybe not working out if the shoot's going to be kind of strenuous, like if it's on rocks or I'm in a bathing suit. And making sure that I have taken my medication, I've gotten a lot of sleep, and that I just show up being my best self.
Yeah, so I hear you. So it's all the preparation, right? Just being proactive as opposed to reactive, I suppose.
Exactly. And the amazing thing is that I'm sure everyone can relate to, when you have something to do, somehow magically you summon up the energy to do it, and you do it. Like, people get very surprised because I am high energy. When I'm doing something, I'm all there, I'm positive, I'm like bouncy. And you wouldn't assume that because I have a chronic illness. Well, I can bring that to everything, but then I have to recharge later.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I hear you 100%. It's spoon allocation, right? Like,
Exactly. But even when you're depleted, if you have something to do, somehow you're able to like just muster that extra thing to get through and get done. But, no one sees the afterwards where you're like, I'm going to be dead in my bed for 4 days
yeah,
and maybe just get a little work done on my computer. Like, I manage it that way, right? When I'm really tired and I'm not going to get the work done I want to, that's when I spend time emails and talking to my partnerships and doing everything that needs attention there.
mm-hmm. So while multiple sclerosis can appear at any age, let's talk about this. It's most commonly manifested between the ages of 20 and 40. However, Nicole, received your MS diagnosis at the age of 10. So my question, I guess, here is, diagnosed at such a young age, please take us back to that time. What was the most difficult challenge then as a child?
So the really interesting thing that I talk about a lot is most people have had symptoms, right? They had these weird symptoms that been going on for a while. Like, what was my first symptom? For me, it was such a like large onslaught. Basically, I got the flu. I was spring break and I got a really bad flu where I was like throwing up all the time, and they had me on like the frozen Pedialyte popsicles to get my what is it?
Nourishment?
Basically fuel my body, yeah, nourishment. And it just, after a few days, it started progressing into these very strange neurological issues. So I kept going back to the pediatrician, and then all of a sudden I like couldn't see. I was seeing double vision. So I was watching TV like this. And I didn't really notice that. I just was like watching TV like this. And then I wasn't able to feed myself. And then I started not being able to walk because my leg, I called it a jelly leg, where it just kind of like you try to stand on it and it just like has no control. And so I went to the pediatrician. He was like, this is not normal flu. Like, she needs to go to the hospital. They sent me to the local hospital. They thought maybe I had a stroke or a brain tumor because I had Bell's palsy in my face. So this whole side of my face was numb. That's why also I was having, because I couldn't like open my eye and close my eye correctly. So that's why it was like this. And then I had transverse paralysis. So I was paralyzed on the right side of my body and my leg. So they were like, oh, something's really happening here, right? It was just so clear. And obviously, after that, I was put on steroids. I responded really well to prednisone. So I was able to walk again. I was able, I could see. And then I got sick again after like 2 months. I was back in the hospital. So all my flare-ups were significant and severe enough to hospitalize me. So that was able to kind of get me my diagnosis more quickly. So it's very interesting how different the start of my disease was than from other people.
Yeah, for sure. Just as you're saying, it was just like this onslaught, so intense because to your point, usually it's a symptom here, a symptom here, which you don't recognize until you get your diagnosis and you look back and it's like, oh, now that makes sense. Yeah. So it's every journey exists as these series of moments, right? So I wondered if you could share a specific moment in your journey with MS that changed your perspective on life and ultimately shaped who you are today. Was there a moment?
Yes. It was kind of my like lowest low point. And I was operating in a way where I did not accept my diagnosis. I was very wasn't an excuse, wasn't part of my life, didn't choose not to recognize any of the issues I was having. And as a person, that led me to be slightly controlling of situations and almost to the point of manipulative, because I understood how to operate and get things and how to like work things around, because that's what I was so used to doing in my own life and hiding. And there was a point where I had someone say something about me, and I read a book and it really struck home. And I realized that I was living a life where I was trying to pretend I wasn't sick, and I was sick. And that part of me wasn't being shown to people at all. And I was just, what am I trying to say? I realized that I'm stronger in who I actually am rather than the person I was creating for myself. Mm-hmm. And MS is part of me, and that's where a lot of my strength is. And if I'm not letting that be seen and be out, then I'm not really being who the capacity of a person I have to be. It's just, there was such a long time where I was like working my best to not look like I have MS, right? Doing everything to show people I'm not sick and I'm as normal as them. But it was just a lie. You get caught in these lies all the time. And lying just makes you not a real person. Like, I lied about everything for like 25 years. And then all of a sudden it was like, actually during COVID was a big shift, because I saw the Black Lives Matter and the whole need for representation. And representation was what I was missing as a kid, right? I was 10 and the only people I knew who had the disease, my friends' parents, right? There was no one I could see who was like an adult who had MS. And I realized, wait, I am an adult who had MS as a kid. Maybe there's other people who are out there who I could help. It's not a simple answer. Kind of, I was trying to at one time. But it really didn't happen until I was older. Like I came into myself by being by embracing the fact that I have this disease, not because it defines me, but because so much strength has come out of it.
Yes. And isn't that something, when you can find strength within what other people would deem a weakness, and to say, because people will say that, this isn't actually my superpower. And until you walk that path, it's really hard to wrap your mind around.
Yeah. Until you decide to be that superhero, you don't recognize that. Until you recognize that superpower, you're not that superhero.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So like you have that superpower, but if you're not, embracing it, then you're not being the superhero you are.
I love it. Absolutely. Because you can't, it's like you're stepping around your power as opposed to into your power. And when you can do that, you rock it like you're doing, because the work that you do, the stories you share, how you show up supports so many of us in the community. I will just say that.
The crazy thing too is, like, as much as I'm giving support to people, this has been the most rewarding thing for me. Like I said, I never knew anybody. I've never talked to people about my illness. Like I never, I didn't talk to my friends' moms who had MS. Like I was in high school and elementary school. I wasn't going to be like, "Hey, how are you dealing with this?" And like, they weren't my peers.
Right.
So like having people relate to me has been like overwhelming for me. As much as I know it's helping other people, it's been like so amazing on my end.
As with life in general, let's get to brass tacks here. Like with MS, just like with life, good days, bad days. In your 26 years of living with MS, let's talk about the bad days. How do you maintain? I guess I asked this question specifically for those who have been newly diagnosed, who don't have the experience that you have. What advice do you have for managing the bad days?
Okay. Embrace the bad days. We just have to accept that we're going to have bad days. I have bad days, had a bad day yesterday, bad days this week. And if we stay in a space where we're like, why am I having this bad day? I can't be having this. You're not doing anything. Then we're just making it worse, right? We have to be, okay, this is my bad day. I'm having a bad day. Let me accept it. If I need to rest, let me rest. If I feel guilty, I'm not getting stuff done, answer one email, do it while resting. As long as you don't let your bad day like ruin your spirit and your entire mentality, that's like what's important, right? Accept that it's a bad day. Take the rest that you need. Don't feel bad. You are going to have bad days, period. You can't avoid them. They're going to happen. So when you have a bad day, you're having a bad day. That's okay. Do what you need to so you don't have a bad day tomorrow. And I still struggle. My husband's always like, it's okay. Like yesterday, I was really depleted because I did way too much stuff consecutively. I had like 3 very jam-packed days. And he was just like, just take a rest day, put on a movie, answer some emails, just rest. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard to accept that when you've first been diagnosed because you're used to doing so much. You're like, I did this, why can I do this? And then you guilt yourself about it. But the reality is, the sooner you can accept that this is how it's going to be and that you will have these bad days, the less they'll affect your life.
I love that. I love it. So it's just like, it's an internal struggle, right? Where you just have to manage expectation And it's crazy because it's so easy to give other people grace, but to give ourselves grace, that's a whole different story. And
Yep.
much more difficult. So,
Yeah, I tell people also like think about how you would talk to a friend, seriously. Like think about what you would say to a friend. And also having a tool, not a tool, I guess you could say a toolkit, but like what can get done on bad days, right? So like knowing these are the things that I can do on bad days that will make me feel better if I actually do something, right? Like maybe bad days you do laundry, right? It's like, oh, okay, at least I'm getting the laundry done. So
right.
just having things that you can do that you know will make you feel better that are within your limits.
That's such great advice. It's like schedule your wins. The bad days, these are the wins that I can gain, right? So,
Because you
um,
still feel good when you accomplish one thing, right? So, like, what can I do that's going to make me feel better when I can do absolutely nothing?
I want to talk about a few more letters today because in addition to MS, you balance additional diagnoses. So we're talking ADHD, PTSD. So at this intersection, then, how do you maintain self-care while also managing life, just managing a busy schedule?
I, it's like, is there really an answer to this? Um, I get very overstimulated and overwhelmed. So a lot of times I take 30-minute breaks. So I like to go into like a room by myself, maybe put my noise canceling headphones on and read. I'll do that in the morning. Like just finding ways to ease into things more easily. Um, and know yourself, right? Like I have ADHD and like my brain can be in a million places at once. My noise canceling headphones actually really help with that, right? Sometimes when I'm learning lines, I do it standing up while pacing because my body's anxious. Um, there's just certain tools that I've learned to incorporate to manage all these different things. The PTSD, that's therapy helps.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but I have a lot of issues sleeping because when I first my onset of my disease, which was obviously very frightening, my parents were out of the country. So I was in the hospital for the first time when my parents weren't there. So it was very scary. And afterwards, I also had a spinal tap that went very badly in the emergency room. They didn't have me positioned correctly, so they had the needle in and they couldn't get any of the fluid out. And so like my mom was on top of me screaming. I was screaming. She had to like lay on me physically because I was screaming so bad. And a doctor came in and was like, put a pillow between her legs, put a pillow between her legs. So that was all very traumatizing. And I had I would have wake up screaming at night because I would be scared that my parents weren't going to be there and I'd be sick. So sleeping has always been an issue for me. Um, Once again, just calming down, reading at night, putting the phone away, things like that. Like understanding that my phone can make me anxious. So if I'm feeling anxious, let's not have the phone. Just in regards to self-care, everyone's different. So like some people are really like breathing techniques that doesn't necessarily work for me. Some people do better in sunlight. I like to lock myself in a dark room. Being in a space that's enclosed makes me feel like I have more control, which is hard with a disease that you don't have any control of.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Well, and I love how you're saying it's knowing yourself and knowing once you know yourself, you can then get to know the tools that work best for you.
Yep.
Because like to your point, we're all different.
And a lot of time people spend so much time fighting stuff instead of being aware of stuff. Like let's say we're looking in the mirror and you're just like thinking that like, oh my God, this shirt looks so gross and stuff. Being aware that you just had that thought, right? Be like, no, this shirt doesn't look gross. Maybe it's not the right color. Let me try something else. Like being aware of what we're thinking is like the first step, because then you can like actually tell the truth of what it is.
Yes.
Right? Like if you're not aware of the fact that you're calling yourself lazy and you're tripping yourself, then how are you going to fight that?
Thank you so much. Excited to share you and your platform and your story with the world. Thank you again for helping all of us become just that much more aware now. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, and we'll definitely chat later.